2016, Guadalajara, Mexico. Elon Musk gave a 1-hour detailed plan of colonizing Mars for the first time at the International Astronautical Congress. Most scientists were quick to dismiss the idea, saying that we are decades away from sending humans to the Red Planet, and that colonizing and terraforming Mars is not possible for a number of reasons. Nearly 5 years have passed, and during this time, SpaceX developed the world's most advanced rocket engine, created and tested dozens of prototypes, while building a rocket factory and a launch site in Texas. But most importantly, we already saw 5 Starship prototypes to perform this revolutionary landing maneuver. SpaceX is now preparing for the first orbital test flight with Ship 20. Musk's dream of making humans a multi-planetary species looks closer than ever. Let's see how close are we. I will never forget watching SM-5 take off and land on August 4 of 2020. Although this wasn't the first Starship prototype test flight, because almost exactly a year before that, we saw Starhopper rise up and gently land with its Raptor engine. But SM-5 was a distinct moment to me, because that was the first time when I truly felt that we might actually have a chance to do this. For the first time in human history, we have a chance not just to visit, but to colonize another planet. And that to me is really one of the most inspiring ideas that I can think of. I could only compare it to things such as time travel, faster than light travel, or to cure aging. I'm truly happy to see that Starship got so many people excited. But when I think about Elon's plan, I hardly ever think about Starship. To me, it's all about the city he envisions, with thousands and thousands of people born and living their lives there. I live on the tiny island of Malta, which is the 10th smallest country in the world, with a population of about 500,000. I know it sounds impossible, but there is a chance that by 2050, the population of Mars will be close to that number. Elon has said before that he's planning to build about 1,000 ships, and we can make the trip to the Red Planet roughly every 2 years. Let's say that 500 of those will carry 100 people each. That's 50,000 people every 2 years. If we can send these ships from the early 2030s, there will be about 10 launch windows, so this would amount to 500,000 people. Of course, this is a rough and very optimistic calculation, and I don't think that that many people will be living there by then. But if we don't encounter any catastrophic setbacks along the way, I would be really surprised if the number of colonists will be under 10,000, and I see a very high chance for that number to get close to 100,000 by 2050. But for now, if we want to achieve this, the most crucial piece of the puzzle is Starship. So let's see how things are going right now. After SM-5 and 6, things escalated quickly. So far, the most exciting period of the Starship development happened between December of 2020 and May of 2021. This is when we saw the 5 prototypes to demonstrate this revolutionary landing maneuver. Except for SN11. We basically didn't see anything from SN11. Some people just call this the suicide dive. There are a lot of skeptics of Starship who thought that SpaceX can never pull this off. But they did it. And they only had to try it 5 times. SN8 got really close, and SN10 was able to make a rough landing, but unfortunately blew up a couple of minutes after that. SN15 was the first prototype to demonstrate a successful landing. SpaceX is all about pushing the envelope, so if they have proven a certain design, they like to take things to the next level and work on a more complex challenge. A good example of this, how they transitioned to the development of Falcon 9 after having 3 launch failures and only 1 successful mission with their first ever rocket, Falcon 1. When SN15 landed, they basically already had another flight-ready prototype, SN60. But SpaceX decided to retire SN16 and move it to a display stand next to SN15. Elon actually hinted on Twitter that they might use SN16 on a hypersonic flight, but we didn't get any update on that since. We use this term for aircraft speeds which are much greater than the speed of sound. Speeds for hypersonic aircraft are greater than 3000 miles per hour, or Mach 5. None of the Starship prototypes have ever reached this speed before. After the successful landing of SM-15, SpaceX started to focus on Ship 20, which is the most advanced prototype so far. According to Elon, this will be the first ship to reach orbit. With every prototype, the team installed more and more heat shield tiles for the test flights, but Ship 20 is the first to have a fully completed heat shield. As of today, it has completed 4 static fire tests, and in one of those, SpaceX tested the vacuum Raptors for the first time as well. Some of the heat shield tiles were shaken off from the roar of the Raptors, so it seems like the team will have to improve the method which they use to mount the tiles on the stainless steel. SpaceX started to focusing more on the boosters as well. 3 Raptors were installed on BN3, then a cryotest and static fire test was performed for the first time on a booster. But Elon told us that BN3 is just another Pathfinder and only the next booster will go to orbit. Soon after that, Booster 4 was fully stacked and it received 29 Raptor engines in a single night, which was crazy to see to say the least. Even crazier, Ship 20 was lifted on Booster 4, so we got to see the first fully stacked Starship prototype. This was the largest rocket ever assembled. We also learned from Elon that the next Super Heavy prototypes will have 33 Raptor engines and the ships will have 9. 6 of those are vacuum engines. He also shared that our Raptors on Super Heavy will be the same, the only thing is that the center engines will gimbal but not the outer ones. Of course, SpaceX is already working on the next ships and boosters. Ship 20 is really close to being fully stacked, and the next 2 boosters are coming along nicely as well. As I said earlier, Elon is not planning to build one spacecraft, but a whole fleet of them. And for this, they have to create the machine that makes the machine. The thermal protection system, or heat shield, will play a crucial part in making the mission successful. SpaceX produces its hexagonal heat shield tiles in Cape Canaveral, Florida. On June 7, 2021, Starship Gazer took these photos of a few shipments from the so-called mini bakery. This could mean that they are building a second bakery near the production site at Boca Chica, but this was never confirmed by Elon. In his interview with Everyday Astronaut, Elon explained to Tim that Stage 0, by which he means the launch tower and the tank farm, is much harder to create than the ships or the boosters. And if Stage 0 would be destroyed or damaged by an exploding rocket, that could set back the mission by months. To make it even more complicated, they came up with this plan of catching the rockets in the air with this 140 meters tower, what Elon called Mechazilla. So they can save weight by not having any landing legs on the boosters or the ships that are not meant to land on Mars. SpaceX will use the same system to stack the ships on top of the boosters as well. Earlier this month, the team moved the rocket catching arms for the first time since they were installed. Looks like there is a high chance that we will see Mechazilla in action this year. But as Elon said on the Experiment podcast, most probably this won't work for the first time. One thing is for sure, that it will be a very entertaining thing to see either way. One of the most important updates of the year came after Elon shared this picture of 10 Raptor engines in Boca Chica and left a comment saying, "We are breaking ground soon on a second Raptor factory at SpaceX Texas test site." This will focus on volume production of Raptor 2, while California factory will make Raptor vacuum and new experimental designs. He later added that by volume production, he means 2 to 4 engines per day, roughly 800 to 1000 per year. That's about what's needed over 10 years to create a fleet to build a self-sustaining city on Mars. City itself probably takes roughly 20 years, so hopefully it is built by 2050. So he still believes that we can build a city on Mars by 2050, which is great news, but this again shows just how difficult it will be to achieve this. Raptor is the most advanced rocket engine in the planet, and now he wants to build the world's most advanced rocket engine factory to produce 4 of these babies every day. Not too long ago, in a leaked SpaceX email, Elon said to his employees that the lack of progress towards the production of Raptor engines puts the company at genuine risk of bankruptcy. In the latest Experiment podcast, Elon also confirmed that the biggest challenge right now is to produce enough Raptor engines. Of course, it's not out of the realm of possibility that SpaceX could go bankrupt. But in my opinion, Elon is just concerned about the delay and he's trying to motivate his people to solve the challenges. The truth is that SpaceX had never been in such a strong financial position as now. The company just hit the $100 billion valuation after its last financing round. And Elon has billions in cash because he sold 10% of his Tesla shares. Another thing I thought worth mentioning is that at the B-Word conference, Elon revealed that SpaceX holds Bitcoin as well. We knew that Tesla bought $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin early last year, but this was a surprise to everyone. Toby asked Elon on Twitter if SpaceX ever considered tethering two crew starships to create artificial gravity. And to my surprise, Elon said yes. Unfortunately, we don't have more information on this. For some reason, Elon never really talks about the gravity issue, which I'm a bit concerned about. 7 months is long enough time in zero-G for the astronauts to lose muscle and bone density, so they would have to spend weeks recovering following the landing before they can set foot on the red planet. Of course, the big question is when the orbital flight of Starship will happen. The FAA received a large amount of criticism last year for standing in the way of SpaceX. Even Elon said that there is simply no way that humanity can become a spacefaring civilization without major regulatory reform. The current regulatory system is broken. From my point of view, Ship 20 never really looked ready for an orbital flight. For example, every time they did a static fire test, the Heatshield tires were flying off the vehicle, just to mention one thing. That being said, the FAA announced recently that it was unable to meet the original December 31st deadline to complete an environmental assessment of SpaceX to conduct orbital launches of its Starship Super Heavy vehicle from Starbase, due to the high volume of comments submitted regarding the flight. A new target date for issuing the final assessment has recently been set to February 28 of 2022. However, we have one clue from NASA which might suggest that the orbital flight could happen in March, because there is a report saying that NASA wants to study Starship's heat shield during re-entry on March of 2022, which would be done with their WB-57 aircraft. But we have a very limited information regarding this. With the launches of 2021, the number of Starlink satellites in orbit get close to 2,000. The internet service is now available in 25 countries and has over 145,000 users. Elon said in a tweet that Starlink will probably not go public for the next couple of years, until the company's revenue is not reasonably predictable. The IPO of Starlink is more important in regards to the colonization of Mars than most people would think. Elon and Gwen Shotwell both said a couple of times that SpaceX is planning to fund the colonization of the Red Planet from the revenues of Starlink. Starlink's users' terms of service even mentions that the parties recognize Mars as a free planet and that no Earth-based government has authority or sovereignty over Martian activities. Some people speculated that Starlink could very easily become a multi-trillion-dollar company, if not the most valuable company on the planet in the coming decades. I'm not sure about that, but it's undeniable that Starlink is making a great progress. People who relied on satellite internet before and switched to Starlink has only said good things about the service. Actually, most of them are blown away by the huge difference between Starlink and the other providers.
We've had our Starlink version 2 satellite dish now for 2 weeks, and I've got to say it's exceeded our expectations.
SpaceX came up with a new smaller rectangular dish for which they filed a new application with the FCC as well. This new rectangular dish is just 12 inches wide, 19 inches long, and weighs a little over 9 pounds, almost half of the weight of the original 16-pound round dish. However, the price of the new rectangular option remained the same. The user terminal currently costs $499 for the customers. One of the criticisms of the company is that those people who would need it the most cannot afford such a high upfront cost. But I have to mention it here, that it used to cost about $3,000 for SpaceX to produce one such a terminal. Over time, and with this new dish design, they were able to reduce this to under $1,500. Still, SpaceX is absorbing most of the cost of the terminals. SpaceX President Gwen Shotwell said during a discussion at an annual space conference that they think they will be able to cut that half yet again in the next couple of years. ExoMars, which is a joint program of the European and Russian Space Agency, has made a fascinating discovery. A huge deposit of water at the bottom of the Valles Marineris, the largest canyon in the solar system. 10 times as long and 5 times as deep as the Grand Canyon. The water, which is hidden beneath the surface, was found by the Trace Gas Orbiter's FRIEND instrument, which is mapping the hydrogen in the uppermost meter of Martian regolith. Of course, we knew that water is present on Mars. Some of it is clearly visible on the cold polar regions as ice. But we didn't expect to find it at the surface near the equator, as temperatures here are not cold enough for exposed water ice to be stable. FRIEND, which stands for Fine Resolution Epithermal Neutron Detector, revealed an area with an unusually large amount of hydrogen in the canyon system. Scientists say that as much as 40% of the near-surface material in this region, which is about the size of the Netherlands, appears to be water. FRIEND mapped the hydrogen content of Mars soil by detecting neutrons. Neutrons produced when highly energetic particles, known as galactic cosmic rays, strike the planet. Drier soil emit more neutrons than wetter ones, so the scientists can see how much water is in the soil by looking at the neutrons it emits. The scientists don't know how is it possible to have water there, because water ice usually evaporates in this region of Mars due to the temperature and pressure conditions near the equator. I certainly hope that this time we really found water, not like in 2018 when radar data from the Mars Express orbiter appeared to reveal a liquid subsurface lake on the red planet's south pole, which obviously made a lot of people excited. But last year, scientists at NASA found dozens of similar radar reflections around the South Pole after analyzing a broader set of data, and according to them, many are in areas that should be too cold for water to remain liquid. Simply put, either there are dozens of subsurface lakes on Mars that are being heated by a yet unknown source, but more probably, there could be some unknown material that reflects radar waves as efficiently as liquid water that tricks scientists into thinking liquid water is present there. However, this is a really important discovery. The presence of water near the equator would make the creation of the first habitats of future colonies much easier. A team led by the University of California has developed a catalyst to remove perchlorates from water. If you don't know, the high levels of perchlorates found on Mars would be really toxic to humans. This problem is well known among people studying Mars. Because of this, Martian soil could make food grown there unsafe to eat, and the fine dust particles could very easily get into our habitats. So this technology could make Martian soil safer for agriculture and help produce oxygen for the first colonists. The researchers took inspiration from nature to reduce perchlorate in water at ambient pressure and temperature in one simple step. They discovered a recipe for a powerful catalyst that quickly and efficiently broke down the perchlorate in water using hydrogen gas at room temperature with no combustion involved. An upside of the high levels of perchlorates on Mars is that microbes on Earth use it as an energy source, so this might boost the chances that microbial life exists on the red planet. After 7 months of spaceflight and 7 minutes of terror, NASA's Perseverance rover landed on Mars in February 2021. The mission has been a tremendous success so far. Cameras aboard the rover and on the jetpack that lowered it onto the Martian surface captured the first video footage of a Mars landing. The rover had tested all cameras and scientific instruments, written more than 80,000 pictures, including the documentation of Ingenuity's flights. Its primary mission is to collect rock and soil samples from Jezero crater. Perseverance brought 43 sample tubes to Mars for this reason. The rover encountered an anomaly on December 29th, but the mission team had to wait until January 6th to send a command to extract the drill bit and take images to verify what happened. Looks like some dirt fell out of the sample tube when dropping off the coring bit. The debris is preventing the rover from correctly sealing the sample-filled tube. Luckily, NASA's GPS chip sampling engineer said that the carousel was designed to run with debris, and that they are confident that they can get rid of the pebbles in a controlled and orderly fashion. These tubes are planned to bring back to Earth with a future unmanned mission, but in my humble opinion, SpaceX has a much better chance of sending astronauts to Mars before NASA could come up with a mission that can get to Mars, reach Perseverance, and then take off and land on Earth again. I'm not saying that it's impossible, but it would be immensely complex and high cost. Some people argue that the samples will be good to make sure that we have enclosed, uncontaminated soil samples before humans arrive on Mars, so we could rule out that the astronauts contaminated the samples in case we would find life on the red planet. As we all know, Perseverance had a hitchhiker called the Ingenuity helicopter. It has completed 18 flights on the surface of Mars. During these flights, the helicopter was airborne for over 30 minutes, traveled a distance of 3.6 kilometers, flying as high as 12 meters and as fast as 16 kilometers per hour. But my favorite experiment aboard Perseverance is called MOXIE, a 17 kilogram golden box that breaks carbon dioxide into oxygen at a rate of about 10 grams per hour, roughly the same as a large tree. It's mind-boggling to think that an upscaled version of this one day will create oxygen on an alien planet for humans to breathe. As I said earlier, I'm thrilled to see that Starship got so many people excited. But unfortunately, I have a feeling that most of them are blinded by the cool technology and overlooking the real reason why SpaceX is developing Starship in the first place. I love the famous quote from Konstantin Tolkovsky, who was a true genius of his time. He says, "Earth is the cradle of humanity, but one cannot remain in the cradle forever." I think this is so true and undeniable that I just cannot comprehend how is it possible that so many people are against space exploration, including many of our leaders. I can also get upset about how few people know that this is actually happening, and the large number of those who do know about it doesn't believe that it's possible. My goal with this channel is to bring awareness to the fact that we are in the process of colonizing another planet, and to investigate if long-term life is really possible for humans on Mars. Because even though I think we should do this, and I want to go there myself, I still have my doubts. But more importantly, I hope that this channel can help to create a community of people who are seriously considering visiting Mars or moving there once or if it becomes possible. If you are one of those people, please hit the like button so we can get the word out there. Keep looking up, my friends, and see you on Mars.